Hello, everyone. Happy Sunday. Oh my gosh, you can see the ring light in my glasses. So shout out to Kelli because I have a lot of migraines. Like every single week I have migraines. And she sent me these blue light filtering glasses and they're amazing. And I have way less like migraines, probably cut by 75%, which is amazing. So just wanted to give you a shout out. Thank you so much. We have a full moon in Sagittarius coming up, which has some alignments with stars in the Ophiuchus constellation. There have been themes coming up for a while now, probably the entire time I've been doing this. I don't know if it's just because I'm interested in it or if this is something that's happening collectively. I think it's a collective thing because we had that eclipse that was aligned with Algol, the full moon in Taurus. So there's some stuff happening with Medusa here and Pallas Athene, which come from the Libyan goddess Neith. Talked a lot about that. There's a lot of like intense polarity happening, which there always is during the full moon, but it's really interesting this time in particular. There's a lot of like religious undertones going on. Sagittarius kind of has like a priestly function sometimes. And last night I had a dream that I was like a crusader and I was like killing people and like burning down temples like in the name of God and like the one true only God. So there's something with that like coming along, and that has a lot to do with like the patriarchy as well and feminine wisdom, which in a lot of ways has been hidden in the Sagittarius sign in Western astrology. If you want to learn more about that and like Ophiuchus, I highly recommend going to the Instagram account, Find Me in the Stars. She does true sidereal astrology, so you'll really enjoy her work. So check out Find Me in the Stars if you want to learn about that. All right, so let's look at the chart. The chart is super interesting. And it's funny because it's in Sagittarius, which is about the big picture, right? Gemini is about all of the details, sort of like in a Virgo way, but it's Mercury. So about the details, about the information and just like learning, like the science and the facts, things like that. While Sagittarius, which is the opposite sign, is about the big picture, the higher meaning, the philosophy, that kind of thing. So it's very grand. It's very expansive Jupiter, seeing it's like the higher minded perspective of things. Yes, I talk with my hands a lot, I know. Sometimes I just look at myself on the screen and I'm like doing something like this. All right. So let's talk about the basics. What is Gemini? What is Sagittarius? So Gemini is the twins. Gemini is ruled by Mercury, which represents our brain. It's our mind. It's how we send and receive messages. It's how we communicate with each other. It is movement between duality. So movement between extremes. This is the opposite of that. Distraction is a thing. With the Gemini placements, they're ruled by air. Air deals a lot with the future mostly, and it's constant movement, right? Like the wind is always blowing, usually, unless it's before a tornado, which is interesting because it's very still before a tornado, and then that's like extreme air. So air is generally movement. This is a mutable sign, meaning we're moving from spring energy into like official summer energy. So once we get to Cancer season, that will initiate summer for us here. Our astrology is based on the seasons. So that is Gemini. Gemini is about learning a little bit of everything, like having, what's that phrase? Having your fingers in lots of pies. I hate that. I hate that phrase, but just knowing like a little bit about everything. And Gemini can certainly seem like an expert because they know so much about everything, that interests them, which is a lot of things, but they have a really difficult time like focusing on just one thing and spending all of their time and focus into that. Because what fun is that, right? I don't know. Like my sidereal Mars is in Gemini, so I totally understand like being a little bit scattered among many different things. So Sagittarius, on the other hand, while Gemini is the lower mind, that doesn't mean that it's worse or anything. It just means it's more dealing with like data analysis, dealing more so with the facts, stuff like that. Sagittarius is the higher mind. So philosophy, religion, religious principles, universal laws, rules law, also Jupiter. And the ninth house, as you can see here, because I have it set to an Aries ascendant. So it deals with that kind of stuff. I always think of like, I went through yoga teacher training a few times. So that kind of like learning about Hinduism and learning about like the yoga practice in that way, that's very Sagittarius to me, because it's also spirituality, because Sagittarius was traditionally ruled by Neptune. So that can kind of give you an idea of what that's like. You know, Neptunian fire, that's interesting. That's a super interesting combination. So Rick Levine always describes it as Sagittarius is like a star in a faraway galaxy that's just like burning. So it's like not super fiery, because it's very like spiritual and very expansive and like almost like ethereal in a way too, but it's still fire. I mean, I've never met a Sagittarius placement person who wasn't super fiery in some way. So Sagittarius deals with that sort of thing. It's also like personal beliefs and belief systems. And I think it's divinely aligned that I had this dream about crusaders, because a lot of us, if not most of us, look back at that as like, wow, that was a horrible thing. Like that was a really terrible thing that happened, was so many people got killed in the name of Christianity. It's kind of hard to wrap our minds around, but that dream helped me realize that most likely like those people who did those things, committed those crimes, that violence, they thought they were doing the right thing. They thought they were defending God and defending the one and true only God's honor in a way. And they really did think that was the way. Now that's like the dangerous Sagittarius, having these belief systems that we get trapped in, like just super stuck in, and we think this is the one and only truth. That's like the dangerous Sagittarius energy. Now, if you look here, it's interesting because here's the moon and opposite the sun, there's a T-square pushing out towards at Neptune. So these are two 90-degree angles here pushing out at Neptune. It's pretty close too. So there's only about a 2-degree difference here between Neptune and then the sun and the moon. So T-squares are conflict. I think this is the kind of conflict we're dealing with, like religious trauma for sure. Gemini deals a lot with that too in a very like intellectual way, but spirituality, so I'm trying to think of what the bigger message is here, but Neptune is spirituality, dreams, illusions, delusions. Has anyone else's dreams been so wild? My mom and I both have this going on right now, like the most intense, vivid, interesting dreams. That's normal for me, to be honest, but my mom just said that she noticed that too, having really intense, like over the top dreams. So that has something to do with that. We're working through something here about, Jamie had texted me something about justice, about what is right and wrong. I hate thinking about this sometimes because right and wrong is different to every single person. It's different to every single culture. So we try to do the right thing, but it's interesting because what is the right thing to us might be like the worst, most horrible thing to another culture. For example, the Crusades, like to the people who committed that, did that, that probably was the right thing to them. And a lot of other religious charged wars and things like that. But to everyone else, they were like, wow, this is horrible. So not really a laughing matter. I know it was really traumatic. So that kind of stuff, just think about that sort of thing and how that's showing up in your life. So the moon is at, well, pause that for a second. So we will have Mars conjunct Chiron and Aries. Interesting. So healing, old wounds being exposed. That's kind of why I was thinking like religious trauma or like any kind of trauma, unhealed wounds coming to the surface. Mars in Aries is like super aggressive, you know, with his weapon, with his sword, with his knife, like killing, cutting things out, like surgery, that kind of thing. So in the case of Scorpio, it's like very like spiritual surgery, but I think that can happen here too, because Chiron is such a profound spiritual teacher. Mars will just go in with his scalpel and cut out whatever needs to be cut out, like the cancer or whatever. So that kind of stuff is being removed, you know, from our experience, from within ourselves. With Chiron, it's very personal. It definitely feels like a personal soul wound. We also have Venus conjunct the North Node right here very closely, which means it's opposite the South Node too. So I see this as a good thing. Our relationships are helping us work through those soul wounds and those issues for sure. I just can't help but thinking about like Inanna and Ishtar. That's been coming up a lot lately. On Kelli's Patreon, Mercury landing. And where else have I been seeing that? I've just been seeing it elsewhere too, maybe just with what I've been reading or whatever. The warrior goddess kind of coming into the picture in this full moon. We also have, so there is the Pallas Athene asteroid, but there's also an Athene asteroid. So the Athene asteroid is septile the moon. So septiles are otherworldly, they're prophetic, they are extraterrestrial, they're weird, they're spiritual, they're protective, they're like conjuring some kind of magic. Not like in a Venus sort of way, like in an earthbound sort of way, but like just out there, like different dimensions, different levels of consciousness. So we have the moon, this full moon being septile, the Athene asteroid. And we also have Medusa asteroid conjuncting the moon. So definitely something with like the snake goddess, Neith, which is what Pallas Athene and Medusa stem from, is the snake goddess, which brings me to the moon being conjunct Ras Al-Hagu, which is in the Ophiuchus constellation. So this is, let me get out of this. This is a sapphire star that is in the head of Ophiuchus. Okay. Here we go. Let's go over here, get out of this. Let me just make sure it's sharing the right thing. So this is the, okay, there we go. This is the Astrology King website. So here's the star right in the head of Ophiuchus, the serpent bearer. So Ras Al-Hagu comes from Ras Al-Hawa, which is in Arabic, which means the head of the serpent collector. It also means the head of the snake charmer. So this star is the energy of Saturn and Venus. It can represent, and this is all from this website here. So this can represent infections caused by toxins, medical and hallucinatory drugs, stimulation, or overindulgence. So I'm immediately, again, thinking about the goddess Neith from Libya, who was also later an Egyptian goddess. I'm sorry, she's correcting me in my head. So Nate, she wants her name to be pronounced as Nate. So Nate, she ruled, well, she was also a snake goddess. So some of her followers were known for ingesting small amounts of snake venom to have these hallucinatory experiences. So I feel like that's kind of hidden here, because everything with Ophiuchus has become like very masculine over time. Again, look at Find Me in the Stars to see what she has to say about this, but it originally was a goddess constellation. It was originally like a dark feminine wisdom constellation. There's an ant up here right now. Go away, please. Okay. Ophiuchus was originally like a goddess feminine constellation. And I'm just thinking about these aspects with Athene and Medusa and Neith, and how the star represents hallucinatory drugs, and how with the goddess Nate, the priestesses would use the snake venom to have these hallucinatory, like religious, spiritual experiences. It was religious. So it's the energy of Saturn and Venus, which I always talk about how Venus was the only one that could actually handle Saturn, Kronos. And what else here? Overindulgence, blah, blah, blah. So there's a lot hidden in here having to do with, again, that serpent energy and where that actually stems from and how it was changed to what Ophiuchus is known as now. And the sun is conjunct the fixed star Phact, P-H-A-C-T, which is the dove in the Columba constellation. So it's a dove opposite the serpent bearer that has like this really weird history about hiding and destroying like the dark feminine. All right, let me stop sharing my screen. So that's like a really, to me, that's a really big polarity. Okay, here. Between the dove constellation, which is Venus and Mercury with a touch of Uranus. It's known as being a benefic star with hope and good fortune energy, and it's known as the good messenger. So it has to do with like artistic talents, music, rhythm, stuff like that. So this is like an interesting polarity that's happening right now. Like the peace dove, I think the word comes from like the ring dove or something. The peace dove and like music and artistry and good fortune, one of the good messengers. It makes me think of like Christianity again and like their obsession with the dove. Opposite, all the stuff that's going on with Ophiuchus, the sapphire star from the serpent bear, the head of the snake charmer. It also makes me think of certain remedies for being bit by snakes. They actually use the venom from those venomous snakes like from those venomous snakes to make the anti-venom. But it also has me thinking about like those secrets, those dark feminine secrets that have been stowed away and hidden for so long. That stuff is coming out now, and it feels like to me like the pieces are coming together. Okay, so that is all I have for you guys. Let me know what you think of this and how this has been playing out for you. What are your dreams like? What kind of, if any, dark feminine or hidden goddess energy is coming out for you right now? Okay, thank you so much, and I will see you soon. I'll let you know when I'm going to do the live stream. I'm probably going to do it tomorrow, but I'll let you guys know. Okay, have a great rest of your Sunday. Bye.